Okay, it's one thing to be pro-life or pro-choice, but what about those positions that are seen as more extreme? I'm talking about either supporting things like late-term and partial birth abortion on one side, or wanting all abortions forbidden, even in cases of rape and incest, on the other. Today, let's start with the position of being pro-life even in cases of rape. First, let's be honest about the political impact that comes from holding this view. Suppose you went to a shopping mall or college campus, someplace where there are thousands and thousands of people walking about, and you randomly asked 100 people what they think on this issue. Now, don't look for a popular way to phrase the question. Phrase it like your opponents would phrase it, in their ads or discussions. Ask it like this: should the government force a rape victim to carry the child of her rapist? Tell me, how many of these voters would say yes? Folks, you won't find 10 people who say yes. Not 10. This position is that unpopular. Conservatives face reality. We don't sugarcoat it. If you want to run candidates who hold this view, then you must first change the minds of voters within the district, state, or nation where you're competing. Seriously, you must prepare the ground before planting the seed. It's the law of the harvest. You can't harvest in the fall if you didn't plant, cultivate, water, and weed in the spring and summer. In other words, you can't just run a candidate who holds your views. You must first put in the work of making those views competitive. Right now, the view of outlawing abortion in cases of rape is not only uncompetitive, it's absolutely toxic. Why? Because people holding this view have not planted, cultivated, watered, and weeded the political landscape. That's reality, no sugarcoating. You can't reap what you don't sow. You'll just be left standing in barren fields come November wondering what went wrong. It's political suicide. Now let me be honest, I don't hold this view. I would not make abortion illegal in cases of rape. But since some people on my side do hold this view, I need to be ready to offer some good defense for it. I must show how conservatives understand each other, unlike liberals who simply silence dissenting views. So here are some points in favor of this position. First, the circumstances surrounding an unborn child's existence, whether planned within a loving relationship or imposed by a violent act, do not make the child more or less valuable. One of the sickest phrases I've ever heard from pro-abortionists is, "A world full of wanted children would make a world of difference." What? How wanted you are determines how valuable you are? Gee, I seem to remember Jews not being wanted in Nazi Germany, or black people not being wanted, except as property, by the Democrat-run KKK of the Old South. Does that mean Jews and black people don't deserve to live in some circumstances? Do we keep or discard human life based on how convenient it is at the time? Well, hey, a world full of wanted children would make a world of difference, right? Let me state this with all due force. Every unborn child is equally valuable, regardless of the surrounding circumstances. No exceptions. How much I want someone has no effect on whether they deserve to live. Period. Second, while rape is horrifying, abortion brings death. So it makes little sense to fix one horror with a greater act of horror. Third, while the rapist has committed a crime, the unborn child is not. It seems hypocritical to merely jail the rapist who committed the crime while killing the unborn child who is innocent. So, given all this, why do I still oppose this position? It all comes down to choice and responsibility. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see a building on fire. From inside the building, you hear someone crying out for help. Do you risk your life to save that person or not? Well, if you're a cop or firefighter, then you've already chosen a career field that requires you to risk your life to save that person. Your choice makes you legally responsible for their safety. You have to try to help. But what if you've never made that choice? What if you're an accountant or a mechanic? Sure, it'd still be great and noble of you to rescue them, but I wouldn't require you to do so by law. Your choice has not made you responsible for their safety. Okay, back to the rape issue. In a way, that woman's womb is a burning building, and she has a choice of whether or not to save the unborn child's life. Now let's suppose she and a man had chosen to engage in sexual behavior. No rape, it was all consensual. By doing that, they took the risk of possibly creating a pregnancy. And because they chose the situation, they're responsible for it. And I would hold them legally responsible for it. They're like the cop or firefighter. They chose to be responsible for that voice crying out for help. More than that, they even set the fire. But what if the woman was raped? At that point, she never chose responsibility for the situation. She's not like the cop or firefighter. She's a civilian. In fact, she's a victim of horrifying assault. If she chooses to rescue that unborn child's life, then that would be incredibly noble of her, and I would offer all levels of assistance to help her through it. But I wouldn't legally force her to attempt rescue in a situation when she was forced into it beyond her choice. Why? Because we conservatives believe in choice, and she never made one. To sum up, whatever your position on this issue, it's important for you to be able to defend both sides, because this shows how conservatives are more open, reasonable, and supportive than the liberals. Let the left scream at voters while we reach out to voters with kindness and reason. Trust me, folks, that is a winning approach in politics. Again, I just went over an awful lot of content, so feel free to watch this through a few times until you're comfortable with the topic. Next time, we'll conclude this series by looking at extremes on the other side, such as partial birth and late-term abortions. See you then.